This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Anything discussed during this podcast does not and is not intended to constitute legal advice. Instead, all content is for general entertainment purposes only. Listeners should contact their attorney to obtain advice with respect to any particular legal matter. Listening to, contacting us, or any of the links or resources contained within this podcast and or website does not create an attorney-client relationship. The views expressed during this podcast are those of the individual lawyers in their individual personal capacities only.
All the legal ladies, all the legal ladies, all the legal ladies, all the legal ladies.
Welcome to All the Legal Ladies. Unwind with us as we navigate the fascinating world of legal tales, precedents, and the occasional objection-worthy joke. So I have a question for you guys this morning. Mm-hmm. I'm driving into work, my long drive, and listening to a song that made me think, oh, younger me would probably be ashamed of myself. So or think I'm uncool, maybe not ashamed. So do you guys listen to stuff that people might be surprised? I'll say I was listening to a woman song by The Who, so Mongolian throat chanting. But to be fair, Lizzie Hale, one of the lead singers of Hailstorm, sings with them in this one. So I can understand half the words because of that. But do you have thoughts or songs that you might be like, oh, younger me would be not think I'm cool anymore?
I have one moment that stands out.
Okay.
It was a few years ago, and I was driving home on a Saturday, and I was listening to, it was a song that had been used in a TV show I was watching. I'm trying to think of the name of it now. I think That Girl Is a Problem. So it's a very I'm a bad girl kind of a song. And I'm kind of jamming to the song, and I realized I am jamming to the song driving my red minivan coming home from a freezer meal party to my baby. I thought, this is not my song anymore. I might as well listen to it, but it's not for me. And I was just acutely aware of it in that moment.
Nice.
Younger me was never cool. So older me.
Oh, yeah.
will not care. But I think people are surprised when I say one of my favorite songs is a rap song, Eminem, Lose Yourself. I can repeat all of the words, recite all of the words. And I'm just bopping. And Charles, my son, because he was part of the halftime show a couple of years ago with Dr. Dre and all that. And so I was just jamming, and Charles was like, Mom, please sit down. Shush, be quiet. But yeah, Lose Yourself.
I like it.
The kids are still of an age where they think it's funny when I sing loud. So I know that tide is about to turn.
Yes.
Yes. But one of our favorite things to do, it's not Pat's favorite thing for us to do, but it's something I like to do with the kids is we'll turn on the Frozen soundtrack or something, especially Frozen 2, and you're singing along to Into the Unknown. But then when it gets to the chorus, just kind of not scream it for all you're worth, but loud and off key. Into the unknown. Man, the kids love that.
I love it.
I enjoyed it too. Pat does not enjoy that, especially when we do it in the car. He's driving.
It's too loud.
My guys don't enjoy my singing at all. I find it delightful, but they no, please be quiet. Stop the caterwauling. It's no, I am singing. Leave me alone. I sing because I'm happy.
I have the opposite spectrums with my two girls. Rory loves to listen to the music, but as a purist, I have to listen to it. Nobody shall speak while I'm listening to it. And Bridget's singing along with it. And so lots of fights in the morning when we're playing My Little Ponies.
Oh my goodness.
This should be happy music, not arguing.
I don't, maybe it's just because my brother and I are 11 years apart. And I know I heard from my parents that we argued despite those 11 years, but I just don't think we weren't around each other enough to argue the volume of arguments that are anything. They can argue about anything. They can argue about air, anything.
Yes. Well, why don't we take those arguments into different types of areas of law? So there's a ton of things you can do with a law degree. And specifically, if you're practicing law, there's even more types of law that you can do. So let's kind of discuss a little bit about the different types. Since you started actually at the House of Ruth, that's kind of like a little niche side area. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, just a side note, sidebar. I just taught a class a couple of weeks ago about the different practice areas of law from A to Z, and there really are A to Z, from admiralty, animal law to zoning law and everything in between. And when I started off at a domestic violence legal clinic. So that was basically all I did, was representing people who were victims of domestic violence and protective order, peace order, well, really protective order hearings. How long has peace orders been around? I don't know.
They were around in 2009.
I just started off in protective order hearings in the district court. And so that was just day in and day out protective orders, going in for a hearing, listening to people, sometimes delving into divorce, because House of Ruth, you can represent people in divorce cases if they had an underlying domestic violence case. So,
and the House of Ruth would have been grant-based, right? Mm-hmm. So what kind of limits are there when you're at a place that's grant-based?
Really? Did we have income eligibility? That was so long ago. I don't even remember. Lord, I sound old, but no, that was 24 years ago. Did we do income eligibility? I don't remember. People would just come in after they received their initial protective order, and we would do the intake and see if we were available to represent them in the next 7 days, because it was always like a week out. So I don't think we had to do income eligibility. It was just the number, how many we represented, we had to report back.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was at the Center for Family Advocacy for like peace and protective orders, we didn't have to screen for income at all, which led to some really interesting representation, sometimes a real spectrum of types of people. But if we did family law cases, so those we had to do, I think, according to like the poverty level or something, like probably the same guidelines that legal aid used for representation.
And that's another area, representing children. As Alycia and I were both at legal aid, representing children who were in foster care or who were abused, neglected, or voluntarily placed. So that is another area of practice.
Yeah. Now, for criminal law, there's kind of three main areas. There's the public defender's office that represents indigent defendants. So there is a income guideline. It has changed, which I think is for the better. It used to be just poverty poverty level, but now they actually take into account, do you have a mortgage? Do you have a rent? What is the cost of similar cost of an attorney in the field in general for defense attorneys? And so they kind of take that into account. So they only represent people who can go to jail. There's the state's attorney's office, and those are the people responsible for prosecuting crimes. And then there's usually criminal defense attorneys out in the world. Private practice, that charge, depending on what they want to charge per case, or what type of, whether it's DUI versus distribution of drugs. There's a smattering of other types of prosecution. The county attorney's office deals with local like dog laws, animal laws. The Natural Resources Police Force, there we go, does like crab and fishing type of cases. That's kind of criminal law in a small nutshell. What other types of law can you think of?
And traffic law sometimes is included under the criminal law,
Yes. Yeah.
but it can also be the administrative part of it for MVA hearings.
Yeah, the Motor Vehicle Association can assign points or take away your license depending on what happens in the criminal case or not. So.
Yeah. So, administrative hearings, kind of the other side of those Senate cases, people who maybe don't have a kid come into care, but they have a finding through CPS that they've maybe committed an act of abuse or neglected their child, and they can appeal those through the administrative process.
And you can represent the department in that administrative process. So the state agency. And then, of course, the bread and butter is family law. People, think that criminal law takes up the bulk of cases, but it's actually civil. A large majority of that civil is family law. So we were talking anything from adoption, divorce, child support, child custody, guardianships. So that takes up a lot of time in circuit court. And so you can even specialize in, and when I say specialize, you can just handle like just adoption cases or divorce cases.
Then there's the other civil, there's personal injury, medical malpractice, property issues between people, contract law,
bankruptcy,
Estates and trusts,
foreclosures, landlord tenant. There's a lot out there, and I'm sure we're not even touching all of them because we really focus on most of our practices are in court litigation type things, except for estate planning and trust. But
I was looking up one of my friends from law school the other day to kind of see where she had ended up, and she's working for the Surface Transportation Board, which apparently deals mostly with the railways.
Okay.
So there's a whole avenue I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
There's entertainment law. Talk about the government. You go into government. You can do environmental, working for the Department of Justice. Contractual. So there's a whole range out there. If you are interested in the military, you can become a JAG. And so representing...
I always thought JAG would be interesting because it's both sides. One day you might be prosecutor, one day you might be defense attorney.
Right.
So, but
seems like there's a lot of travel involved with that too.
Yes.
One of my favorite podcasts. One of the hosts of that was JAG for a long time, and she was always flying somewhere dealing with the case.
And then I had to deal with people telling me what to do. So military is not for me.
Yeah. So if you're interested in pursuing a law degree, you want to be a practicing attorney, my suggestion would be to find internships or externships through your college to narrow down the field to see if you really like it. I thought I wanted to be a criminal attorney. I had an externship and as with the Federal Public Defender's Office back in New Jersey. And I found out, oh no, this is not something that I want to do. And so I took that off the table, had an internship at the House of Ruth, and that became a field that I went into because I liked it and I wanted to pursue it. So, contact local law firms, see if they offer internships or even shadowing. Court is public.
Yeah.
I worked at two different nonprofits while I was in law school who did not have litigation arms. It was really just like advocacy work. And one of my bosses there, it was nice. They would take you out to coffee and talk to you a little bit, mentor. And she started talking to me about family law and, about her divorce process and the difference of the different types of lawyers made in that case and how, really good family law. It's like every agreement that you can work out, everything you can do, you can save an argument for that family later. And boy, did I drink that Kool-Aid. I was so, I'm going to help families. I'm going to, I don't know if I feel like I'm helping families a lot of days.
Yeah.
That's kind of our process, right? We really do try to help in trying to give them their own voices so they can figure out how to navigate the next 18 years without needing us.
And I mean, we do try to help them find those areas of agreement where we can. It's just a limited amount of control in that process.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And so if you are going to law school and you get a JD, Juris Doctor, you don't have to be a practicing attorney. There are JD Advantage careers. So you can always be a law professor. You can be a law librarian. You can be a Title IX officer at a college.
Policy writers,
politician. So lobbyist. So there are a whole bunch of opportunities out there for those going to law school. Weigh it carefully.
Yes. And even before that, if you're in undergrad and thinking, oh, one day I want to be a lawyer, do something besides political science or pre-law or criminal justice, because it's really better to have more of a well-rounded education. Maybe you might have a side interest in engineering. Well, great. That can open up patent work if you're interested, and that's lucrative. Or if you're interested in entertainment law, then go for videography or podcasting or something in undergrad, so you have that experience as well. So
if you're interested in medical malpractice, no, you can pursue something in the medical field. So
there are a lot of nurses that turn law. So.
Yeah, I just think, I know for myself, I don't think I did the type of, research or looking into it maybe that I should have going into law school. But there was also really very few people in my life to tell me how to do that. I'm a first generation college student in my family. So it's like, you see these big salary, averages, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I can take out these huge loans because I'm going to make all of this money, not knowing that those averages are for people who go into big law.
Right.
And who work 60 and 90 hours a week and who are doing work on every vacation they take. And that's not the life I wanted. But I got the loans for that life.
There is a big difference between if you're working in the nonprofit field, big law, solo practitioner, small law firm, the ranges in salary is very different. And also depending on geographic areas. So you're not going to make as much money as you would in New York here in Southern Maryland.
Of course, you're not paying the rent that you're paying in New York. Cost of living.
But even you can see hourly rates from attorneys really is location dependent. Our rates are not nearly as high as some in the city and the Washington, D.C. suburbs, because it's just not sustainable in different areas.
Right.
So
Maryland versus Nebraska. So it just depends. And you really need to be thoughtful and about your career options. Don't just go in head first. And then when you come up for air, you realize, oh, I am still drowning.
Nebraska?
Yeah, it was a class I did. So comparing salaries. So so it's a different salary range.
Fair. I was just wondering where that came from.
Just a pipe dream.
I'm going to go get a farm out in the middle of nowhere. And
that was a pipe dream of mine for a while.
You find when you're in cases, especially family law, because that's what we mainly deal with, you think about, what else could I have been doing besides practicing law?
It's like my soapbox of every poor young person who comes to work here and says they want to go to law school. And I'm like, Washington Post article, 10 happiest and unhappiest careers. Notice where law is. I told one of our past legal assistants, she's like, well, maybe people who work outdoors are the happiest. She's like, well, maybe I could, be a lawyer and have a garden. I was like, your garden would die because you would not have the time to tend to it.
Oh, good.
And on that note, I think it's time for recess.
Kind of hoping we get a You Be the Judge again.
judge.
Ask and ye shall receive.
All right. Let's see. You be the judge. Who is most likely to get a face tattoo?
Not
Nobody.
me.
I mean, none of us, but Kat?
I mean, I'm the one with the tattoos.
Yeah.
Does behind the ear count or neck? That's not exactly face. I will never get a face tattoo.
Yeah.
No, they were doing tattoos on location at a Comic-Con we went to. And I walked past and said, oh, I can get a tattoo. I was like, no. Corey's like, no, you will not. Mm-mm.
I don't even want, like, I'm terrified of like the permanent makeup tattoos. So I can't even imagine, like, nope.
Let's see. Who's most likely to sneak out to a party?
Well, in your younger days.
I was like, now, not me. I'm not trying to leave the house ever. I don't even want to go to like parties I'm supposed to be at with people that I enjoy.
Yeah, no. I would go with Kat again. The tattoo party girl.
Now, if we're going back in the day, I stuck out here and there.
I was gonna say that was definitely a you thing. Yeah. No, I guess I am the most extrovert here, which is hilarious because Marsha's everywhere.
I don't want to be.
But I'm too tired to do that these days.
All right, last one. Who's most likely to cry while watching a movie?
All of us?
I was like, I feel like I cry at commercials sometimes. Instagram reels, TikTok videos.
Yes.
Like real life, rarely. But like anything fictional, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I cry.
I think we need another one. We can't just end on that game.
It's cheaper to keep them.
Oh, yeah. I'm horrible at this game.
All right. It's cheaper to keep him. Oh, gosh. Johnny Depp and Amber Heard filed for divorce after 15 months of marriage, and Amber received higher or lower than $15 million from the settlement.
They were only married 15 months?
I don't know. They've been in the public.
Right?
Years.
I feel like it was lower, especially because didn't you donate it all to nonprofits and
So
stuff
much
like
of it's
that?
been spent on lawsuits since
Yeah.
then. I don't even know.
I would say lower.
Lower makes sense to me.
It's lower.
How much?
Lower.
7 million.
7 million.
Yeah.
Still not bad for 15 months.
No.
Although, no, I don't even
I
want to get
wouldn't
into
wanna
that.
be, yeah. Nope.
NASCAR driver Jeff Gordon gave his wife, Brooke Seeley, higher or lower than $3 million in their divorce settlement.
Not really a race car person, but I feel like higher. I feel like because he's a name I recognize.
Yeah, it
so.
doesn't say how long they were married, but
I don't even recognize the name. So
Jeff Gordon?
Oh, Jeff Gordon?
Yeah.
Oh.
I was like, I mean, I don't know anything about NASCAR, but I could.
Yeah.
Would I pick that name out as a NASCAR driver? Hard to say, but in context, it's familiar.
I would say higher.
Higher. That's kind of my thought too. Yeah.
It's higher.
How much?
15 million.
15 million?
million.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Lionel Richie divorced his wife, Diane Alexander, in 2003, and she received higher or lower than $12 million from the divorce.
That's a tough one.
Like, it seems like,
Like most of his stuff was in the 80s and 90s, right? Like,
so maybe he would have had the most money that he had
yeah.
kind of coming to the end of around that time.
I'm going to guess higher.
I'll go lower.
I'll go lower.
It's higher.
Oh,
Ah,
20
20
million.
million.
In 2003. Nice.
all right.
nice.
Okay.
Well, time for our last segment, Trialhood Traumas, reading wild case stories from the attorneys on Reddit.
Pass it over to Marsha.
Office. Not a lawyer, but lawyer friend and neighbor told me yesterday of a guy whose client is being sued, trying to turn this into a class action suit to boot over chicken wings. The claim is that the 10 wings in his order actually constitute only 5 wings because there's 2 edible parts to a chicken wing. In chicken anatomy class, this would be true. In restaurant chicken wing business, not so. I live in Florida, so
Kind of says all you need to say there.
yeah.
Sorry to our Florida friends. You know it's true, though.
Wow.
The vegetarian wouldn't know if there was two parts to a chicken wing.
There is the drum, and then there is, what do you call that?
What?
The flat. Yes, thank you. There could actually.
I feel like I've gotten them as a whole piece before, but that's been very rare. Like maybe once.
Right. Yeah. When they say chicken wings, usually
Isn't it like the flatter thingamabobbers that people eat and then there's like the bone in it or something?
people like, it depends on the person. Some people like the drum, the meatier portion. Some people like the flat. And so, but it's not really a whole chicken wing.
I just think that we should all come together over what's really important, and that is that boneless wings are not wings. They're not wings. They're chicken nuggets. They're chicken nuggets and sauce.
Which are great.
Call them what they are. They are not wings.
And by chicken nuggets and sauce, I mean the fake chicken.
That's at least partially for my husband, but also for the rest of you who are incorrect.
But I do love a good chicken wing.
A real wing, not a saucy nugget.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for turning into the episode of All the Legal Ladies. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe and listen to the audio on your favorite digital streaming platform. Don't be saucy. We'll see you next week.